having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. Plenty of Browns football to talk with. Ellis Williams will be along in just a few seconds. We will also talk Indians baseball. Shane Bieber trying to make it 3 in a row over the Royals in Kansas City, 4 in a row overall for the Indians as they continue to climb in the AL Central. We'll also talk Buckeyes football with their draft class with Stephen Means, Buckeyes beat reporter. But we begin with the Browns, and we're going to talk about the Browns, how they are viewed nationally as far as their roster construction. Power rankings out. Let's bring in Ellis Williams, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. First one we're going to look at, Ellis, Sports Illustrated rankings. Chiefs number 1 overall, Buccaneers number 2. Then they have the Bills, the Rams, the Ravens, the Packers, and the 49ers, all ahead of the Browns, who check in at number 8 overall. Again, these are power rankings based on roster after the draft. What do you make of that? Browns number 8 in the NFL.
Yeah, when we do this reset and try to figure out where these teams lie, it's always fun because you're projecting unknowns in terms of these rookies. And that's why I think it's safer to package what happened in free agency with more weight than what happened in the draft and then go forward. 8 seems about right. You know, if you look at Super Bowl odds in Vegas, the Browns sit, somewhere like 5, 6, somewhere in there. What I think really the biggest takeaway is just how tough the AFC is. Starting at the top with the Chiefs and the Bills, Ravens. If Denver lands Aaron Rodgers, all of a sudden they're going to shoot up. It's a loaded conference, and the Browns play in one of the hardest divisions in all of football. So rather than just looking at a wholesome look at the league, this is going to be about making the playoffs, getting a good matchup, and staying healthy and having some luck, because it is going to be a war of attrition going through the AFC this year.
So you're not surprised necessarily by it being 8th behind, teams like the Rams, the Bills. And you mentioned the Broncos could move up. Packers aren't going to be up there if Aaron Rodgers isn't their quarterback, is the other thing that I would say.
Right. I get the whole Rams thing. I don't pay a whole lot of mind to what goes on in the NFC. I understand with them playing the West that might be a little, or some teams in the West, I understand that might be interesting. But again, where I find it's interesting is if we're going to put, Buffalo and Cleveland head to head, well, that's not going to be something we can get to the playoffs. They didn't get them a year ago. They're not going to get them this year in the regular season. So it really just becomes an impossible task. And that one specifically probably comes down to quarterback stuff. And Josh Allen's just coming off a better year than Baker Mayfield. We'll see what happens this year. But being in that top 10 and on the closer end of 5 and even higher is what Browns fans should be happy about. And really, you could make a case that this team has a top 3 or 4 roster. But that's one piece that's going to play into the totality of how the AFC sorts itself out through the now 17 games.
Yeah, and you mentioned, power rankings. That's probably a better way to put it than roster, because if you look at the roster, the Buccaneers have, you look at their offensive line, it's okay. I'm not thrilled with their running backs. Their receivers are okay. Tight end, Gronk's a little old, but boy, that quarterback sure does make everything better with Tom Brady being the quarterback. So I think power rankings is probably a more accurate way than assessing it as quote-unquote roster.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And when you try to project these quarterbacks going forward, I don't think a whole lot of that happens when we're doing power rankings. It's more of just what are they now? You can go back and look at August 2020 power rankings or QB tiers, and they had Carson Wentz anywhere between 8 and 13. And when those come out this August, he's going to be towards the bottom. So these things are volatile, and such a weight is on the quarterback that would be the only reason why the Browns sit, not in that top 5. It would be about Baker Mayfield, but that's the point. Baker is at a point now in his career where he can absolutely take off because he's got a complete system around him now, the best roster he's ever had, and a trajectory of being a year 4 player. He's due for a career year.
So another one of these rankings that we'll look at, Pete Prisco from CBSSports.com, And you mentioned around that 5 ranking, that's right where Pete Prisco has them as 5th. Packers 4th, Bills 3rd, Chiefs 2nd, Buccaneers 1st. So he flip-flops 1 and 2. But again, that seems pretty much a consensus is those top 5. You know, if you take Sports Illustrated out where they have them 8.
Yeah, and that's really a testament to this roster. You know, if you look at the 4 quarterbacks ahead of the Browns there's good reason for it. And then we start talking roster, and the Browns, again, probably have a top 3 or 4, if not maybe the second best roster in this league right now. So I think that 5 ranking makes a lot more sense than 8. But again, I understand just being in the top 10, that's the point. And with a more narrow focus, it's getting out of the AFC and surviving all of these teams that really have up-and-coming quarterbacks and talented defenses and defensive coordinators or head coaches making those calls.
So Baker Mayfield, 2nd year in the system, really the first time that he's been able to dive into an offensive system for a 2nd year as well. Is it fair to expect or think that, you know, he could really take a leap into that elite status just based on the fact that he knows what the ins and outs of this offense like he hasn't had the opportunity to do before?
Yeah, it's all there for him. The Browns would probably have to throw a bit more, which maybe they don't need to, maybe they don't want to, or perhaps they will. But in terms of can he continue that progression he's been on or just sustain what he did in the last 10 games of the year, I definitely think so. And if he levels up yet again, now we're talking quite elite territory. You know, he finished the year as a top 12, top 10, maybe a top 8 quarterback. And now if he goes up, we're only talking top 6, top 5. So that can happen for him. It can happen pretty quickly. And I think it's clear that at least in the short term, this will be the best roster he's ever played with to date and probably will play with for the foreseeable future.
Ellis Williams and I, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. We're going to take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, we'll look at the draft class and somebody that graded the Browns picks. Take a look at a couple of those. Plus Anthony Schwartz and what speed might do for this offense. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back talking Browns. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports for CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue to talk Browns football with Browns beat reporter Ellis Williams. Ellis writes for the Plain Dealer as well as here at cleveland.com. Ellis, let's take a look. Clutchpoints.com graded all of the Browns picks. We're not going to go through all of them, but they grade Greg Newsome an A+. What do you make of that grade, and how much do you like Newsome?
The grade, look, A+, like, okay, that's as good as it gets. I understand that. It makes me giggle a little bit because it's like, all right, well, what if he just doesn't work out? Then is it no longer an A+? I don't know. I'm not in the grading business, but I get why it plays. The pick itself, I love the tape. I really, really, really like the tape. And here's the thing, you have to go back and look at clips from, not even clips, full games from 2019. When he's a sophomore, we're talking a 19-year-old, maybe he was still 18. He's not even 21 yet. And I mean, you can see me lighting up talking about him. He is instinctual. He's quick. He's got that straight line speed, so he's not getting beat deep. He is extremely comfortable in off-zone coverage. He's confident and athletic enough to play man and be in your face. He can start and press man and go off and tail zone. He can sit in cover 2 and hit check downs to the flat and really pop these running backs or these short outs. He attacks the ball and pass breakups. You'd like to see him turn some of those into interceptions, but that's really the only knock. I see a tall, 6'1", 6 foot corner. That's tall in this league, lengthy, a kid who's filled out. That's something you don't see on the sophomore tape or even the junior tape. Since his fall season, I think he's put on a good amount of healthy weight, a man weight, if you will, following leading up to his pro day. And this is a kid who lands in a situation that he's not going to be asked to solve all of the Browns' problems. They're going to have a better pass rush. They're going to have a guy in Denzel Ward on the other side of him, and they're going to have Greedy Williams to be there if it doesn't work out right away, or if he needs to have a slow build up to a starting lineup. Regardless, I think the future is bright for Greg Newsome. The more I turn on the tape, the more I crack the numbers. There's a lot to like about this young man, and I think Browns fans will be pleased with him pretty quickly.
Yeah, the other thing that I like about him is you listen to him talk, he thinks he's the best cornerback in the league, and that's what you want. You better have an extreme amount of confidence in yourself because you're going to be out there on an island, and if you get beat, you just got to move on, and that's the type of mindset he appears to have. They also grade Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah as an A+. I love that pick. What are your thoughts about Owusu-Koramoah?
Yeah, real quick on your Newsome point about who he is as a young man, I see a self-aware swagger, a humble confidence to him that he is cool with calling out Larry Fitzgerald and Julio Jones, but understanding he wants to do so in a way to learn, but he's ready. And then it's a young man who's going to face Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry in just a few months at training camp. So he's ready for it, but he understands he has a lot to learn. I really like how he walks that fine balance of humble yet confident. With Wu, this is a young man who has a potential to play right away in Cleveland. Documented why he fell, questionable fit. Is he a linebacker? And then the heart condition thing, which, depending on what you're hearing, it was a factor, isn't a factor. Regardless, it's not an issue for the Browns, according to them. So this is a kid I could see playing right away, making an impact, not in a sense that he's going to change games, but just being reliable, being in the right spots. And then you're going to see that athleticism really start to show when he gets sideline to sideline. These first 2 picks for the Browns, guys that they don't need to work right away, but it adds to that depth. And if they do pop early, it completely remakes the defense, and it does it quickly.
Yeah, it gives them a lot of athleticism. That's kind of what we've seen is they wanted to get more athletic really all over the defense, even on the defensive front, and they have. When you look at these picks, what's a day 3 pick that you think has a chance to be a really good pick?
It's a good question. I like the LeCount pick. I'm doing some research on GPS tracking and what's going on in this league with safeties. I don't think that looking at their 40 times is an accurate depiction of what type of pro they're going to translate into being. So you're seeing some safeties, not just in this draft, but in years past, fall to rounds 5, 6, 7, and all of a sudden become reliable starters on good defenses. I think there's a reason for that. I think LeCount could be the next example of it. The Felton pick fascinates me. It has Kevin Stefanski written all over it, a guy who's going to scheme Felton open and hold linebackers and safeties accountable coming out of the backfield because he has wide receiver chops. I think Nakeem Hines or Curtis Samuel, he doesn't have home run speed like Tariq Cohen, but those type of gadget players that really are less gadget and more just mismatch exploiters. And I like the Hudson pick. I think James Hudson's a guy who is a Kendall Lamb replacement, so a backup tackle, but with real upside to perhaps one day take over for a Jack Conklin. If he gets too expensive and the Browns don't want to entertain re-signing him in 2 years, if I remember correctly, he only signed a 3-year deal, so he could get back on the market again. But the Browns I've got no information on this, but just as I'm seeing the roster play out, I think they're planning for a cheaper offensive line option if Hudson develops. But he's a backup now. But remember, Jedrick Wills left that Kansas City Chiefs playoff game pretty early, and Lamb had to play the entire game and did a fine job. But now you have a guy who, if need be, can fill in, has the upside, and there's talk that he can play some guard too. So now he's Chris Hubbard, Kendall Lamb, and an upside pick. I really like the Hudson selection as well.
So let's shift the focus a little bit. Third round pick Anthony Schwartz. I know you wrote some about Schwartz, and in addition to his speed. Now, when you talk about speed, 4.25 is that's pretty quick. And the other thing that is unique, he ran the ball 11 times last year for over 100. I think it was 118 yards. So it's a guy that you get the ball in his hands in your line of scrimmage and let him use his speed.
Yeah, Schwartz should have two jobs on this team: stretch defenses vertically and make them respect it, and then stretch them laterally, as you said, with the threat of jet sweep, orbit motion, and just straight carries. You can get him the ball around the edge and he knows what to do with it. That 4.25 speed's about as fast as it gets on a football field. Watching his tape, I'm pretty intrigued and hopeful also. He doesn't look like a track player on a football field. He looks like a football player with track speed, which is really impressive. There's questions about his hands, but I think those are a little overblown. When you look at his receptions in the short part of the field, he really looks like a sound catcher of the ball. Hands out, hand-eye coordination, eyes level with the football, keeps his head on the ball, not body catching it. I'm confident he's going to have a sound receiving instincts to just catch the football. We'll see what he turns into as a route runner. On the broadcast, I heard an interesting nugget that Randy Moss gave him, saying you can't run every route at 100 miles an hour, and that's the exact point. The best receivers in this league change their pace. They change their cadence in and out of their breaks, 0 to 100 real quick, right? We'll see if Schwartz can just go from 0 to 100 to 20 back to 100. That's what's going to make you elite. But for right now, he's going to have two jobs, as I started this saying: beat teams deep, make them respect it with 1 or 2 catches early in the season, not in a game. Just, hey, let's get this on tape, show we can do this. And then that constant jet motion, jet sweep, orbit stuff behind the line of scrimmage, pre-snap, teams are going to have to respect from the jump.
And ultimately, a guy with that type of speed, you want to develop into like a Tyreek Hill, where you run him across the entire length of the defense and see if somebody can catch up with him. And if they don't, you get him the ball 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage, and he's gone.
Yeah, that's what he can grow into. But I'll tell you what the Browns can already do with that is they can send Schwartz on a deep post to occupy corner and safety, and then you can send the Browns version of Tyreek Hill, Odell Beckham Jr., on one of those intermediate crossing routes. Now that the whole field, middle of the field is open, you let Odell catch the ball 8, 9, 10, 11 yards downfield and see what happens with no one around him. I think the results are going to be pretty beneficial to Odell and Baker Mayfield finally.
Yeah, and the thing is, Kevin Stefanski is going to have a lot of fun with all those weapons. So Pro Football Focus lists the best fits from the draft. And this one's interesting. One of them is the Browns, and it might not be a guy you think of. It's somebody we talked about, James Hudson. They list him as one of the best fits for the Browns. Take us through what you believe they see as that being such a good fit.
I think they see a really raw, athletic tackle capable of pulling at times into playing the backside and just sounding his pass sets. He's a kid who was switched from defensive tackle, playing there at Michigan, to offensive tackle at Cincinnati. And the fit just makes sense, meaning that the Browns have one of the best offensive line coaches in the league, if not all time, in Bill Callahan. Bring any offensive lineman in here and Bill Callahan's going to make them better. You give Callahan someone with Hudson's raw skills and desire to learn more about the game and his understanding of it already. You talked a lot about Joe Thomas on the call. Bill Callahan's going to be able to mold this young man into exactly what he wants, which is why I agree that it's a perfect fit. And
Pro Football Focus did mention Bill Callahan. An interesting note, he allowed no sacks in 11 starts at Cincinnati. Again, where he was switched to offensive line from defensive line. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's impressive, and only 6 pressures to go along with those 0 sacks. The Browns found a guy that they can develop. And again, I'll come on this show in 2 years and tell you guys James Hudson's going to be replacing Jack Conklin if he gets too expensive, but we're a ways away from that.
Ellis Williams and I going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we'll take a look at how the draft classes as a whole have been ranked. We'll also take a look at some edge rushers and defensive tackles that have joined the Browns. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Welcome back to Sports for CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue to talk Browns football with Browns beat reporter Ellis Williams. You can read Ellis in the pages of the Plain Dealer as well as here on cleveland.com. Ellis, let's take a look at Pro Football Focus ranking the best draft classes in 2021. They ranked the Browns number 1, the Bears 2, Patriots 3, Chargers 4, Titans 5. And their rationale for the Browns being the top pick as far as the draft class goes, the top ranked one, is they have 2 top 20 players from the draft class with no top 20 picks. Tell me, is that good?
The math seems to check out. That's pretty impressive. It's really wild to look back on the weekend that was and consider that the Browns landed a guy that they would have, and admittedly were considering at 26 all the way at 52. And then Newsome dropping to 26 because 2 running backs and a tackle that the Raiders could have grabbed in the second or third round, they take all the way at 17. Luck had a lot to do with this draft for the Browns, but that's not an insult. People who get lucky tend to meet luck at the point of preparation and opportunity. And that's exactly what GM Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski have done from day one. As they've been prepared, they've been ready. So when those lucky moments present themselves, they either just land Greg Newsome or pounce and trade up 9 spots for a player like JOK. All in all, when I look at the draft class, it's really a 2-year window. And Pro Football Focus also gave them an A+ a year ago, the first time 2 teams have had back-to-back A+ grades. It's exciting. You can tell that the process is clear. Still, the jury is out if even the 2020 class was a home run. Even someone like Jedrick Wills has a ways to go. I wouldn't say I'm worried at all about Jed. It's more the Jacob Phillips and Harrison Bryans and Jordan Elliott's of the world. And this class is going to have the same questions, but the process has been foolproof thus far.
The other thing that it's refreshing to see is there is a type of player that the Browns want, and you understand why they are going after a guy. And I think it reflects Kevin Stefanski said JOK might not fit every scheme, but he fits what the Browns want to do. And that's been a change from past regimes. These guys know what type of players they want.
Yeah, they're in sync. They know that they're not going to just draft a guy based on traits and be like, all right, coaches, figure it out. Our scouts think he's great. Now it's up to you to develop him. And if you don't develop him, it's your fault, not our fault. That's how a lot of these front offices get in trouble. And most of that was probably happening in Cleveland and, of course, predates me greatly. But this is a clear through line between, from ownership down to a defensive back coach, that they know who they're going after. They like production. They like youth, older juniors, younger juniors, younger seniors, again, Newsome not being 21 yet. And then they like guys from, those power conferences. It's a melting pot that usually sets you up to have the best course of success in this league, and the Browns have a clear formula now.
Yeah, and again, I get why they want younger guys, because on the second contract, you don't want a guy who's going to be pushing 30. 30 is kind of the fall-off age, and if a guy's 26 for that second contract, it's a lot better than if he's 28. Let's move on. Some of the national people kind of dinged the Browns draft because they didn't go out and get an edge rusher. Do you think they needed to get an edge rusher? Is there a rush to get an edge rusher? Is that something that they can address down the road?
I think it's something they can slow play. It's a market that still has a handful of veterans that you will look like names and might still have some stuff left in the tank, but there's no rush now. If Clowney gets banged up all of a sudden in camp, expect something to happen. But as of right now, they are full and deep at all of these spots. And you really only need 3 or 4 edge rushers to do this job in the league. And they've got guys who can play both. You can put Malik Jackson out there and have a big end. So they can slow play this and wait it out. Would I like to see them grab a developmental edge? Sure. But this team addressed the more immediate needs, and I understand why they didn't.
And the other thing is all those edge rushers, there were questions, one form or another of question about them, even a developmental guy, and they just clearly weren't as comfortable with the edge rushers that were available. Let's talk a little bit about defensive tackles. So the Browns signed a couple of veterans yesterday. Do you think that precludes them from signing Sheldon Richardson, or do you think, if Sheldon Richardson probably knows the price, or Sheldon Richardson, excuse me, probably knows the price, if he's willing to take the price, Browns want him back?
I think it's the latter. These guys can all be practice squad or cut and put on waivers again if Sheldon comes back at the right number. But it's all going to come down to that number. There's clearly a number on the table that the Browns are cool with, one Richardson's cool with, and it's not the meeting point yet. So we'll see. I mean, Sheldon would come in and play over all these guys immediately. Production wasn't the reason Sheldon is no longer in Cleveland. So let's see how the money plays out. The Browns are preparing for a future without him, clearly, as they should. But it's something that I don't think precludes the Browns from revisiting this and then having Sheldon come back once we get closer to camp.
Here's another angle to that. My thought is if the money is essentially equal, I think Sheldon probably comes back because he knows the situation here. He knows it's a situation he can thrive in to get, that next contract that he's looking for.
Yeah, the Browns are already getting hometown discounts. I mean, Josh Johnson took less to come here, and Sheldon was a part of what is really this complete rebuild now. He though wasn't here for that long, knows what it was like to go through some Cleveland crap, if you will. So for him to see both sides of it and now probably have some sentimental build in there, the Browns have built good equity there.
Ellis Williams and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. A lot of national talk about Aaron Rodgers coming to Cleveland. We'll dive into it and we'll hear some people that think it's a good idea, some people think it's not such a good idea. That's straight ahead. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports for CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue to talk Browns football with Browns beat reporter Ellis Williams, and this one's a little interesting. So Aaron Rodgers made it clear he does not plan on going back to Green Bay. ESPN's Bill Barnwell has listed 7 potential trades that could work. Now, number 5 on that list of 7 was the Browns getting Aaron Rodgers and cornerback Josh Jackson. The Packers getting Baker Mayfield, David Njoku, the 2022 and 2023 first-round picks of the Cleveland Browns. Let's bring Ellis Williams back in. And Ellis, that seems like an awful lot to me for Aaron Rodgers. And Browns fans have not been a fan of this talk. We have heard and seen from them. What do you make of that and the whole Aaron Rodgers, Baker Mayfield kind of deal?
Yeah, I understand why Browns fans don't want to hear it, and it's really a lot of Madden talk. Like, I get that the Vegas odds have the Browns tied for 4th most likely to land Aaron Rodgers, but the odds are quite steep. Denver and Green Bay are even for Rodgers' 2021 team, and then at plus 1,500, you find teams like the Browns and the Saints, and the Raiders are in there. They're a lot shorter at 500, though. Point is, this is something that would, I mean, of course, send ripple effects through the NFL and Cleveland as a whole, but it's also something that just doesn't seem on brand for the Browns front office. Now, you could say, well, when has Andrew Berry or Kevin Stefanski ever had an opportunity to trade for the former league MVP? When has any GM had a chance to trade for the former league and the reigning league MVP? And it's that stat's been all over the internet and airwaves, how no league MVPs ever switched teams the following year. The only 2 have done it or have retired, one of them being Jim Brown. So where I'm going with this is this would be a monumental moment in Andrew Berry's development, because what we learned from Andrew is there's a clear plan and he sticks to it. And there's 0 chance that Aaron Rodgers was ever a part of that plan, because Andrew didn't plan on Aaron Rodgers ever becoming available. So we'll see if there's any pivoting. We'll see if things get wild or freaky or creative. It's, we're coming up on a summer where we're going to need to talk about some stuff. So you never say never, but Andrew Berry is about a plan. Aaron Rodgers was not a part of that plan. Baker Mayfield is, and I have a feeling that's how it'll stay.
The other thing is it would be everything that this front office has kind of done has been very measured with, yes, let's win now, but let's also be aware of where we're going to be 2, 3, 4. There's a long-term view. And this would be crunching everything into the short term and forsaking the long term.
Yeah, and it really would crunch all of the plans into a 2-year window that really Tampa Bay's on right now. And the reason Tampa Bay was able to do this with Tom Brady is because they had a guy like in Jameis Winston that they were ready to move on from. Now, if Baker had a terrible year last year and had a 30 for 30 type season like Jameis Winston, or just had a carbon copy of his 2019 year, then this would probably happen. I'll be real with you. This would probably be a real likely scenario or a real likely landing spot for Aaron Rodgers. You know why? The Denver Broncos are a really likely landing spot for Aaron Rodgers, because they are going through exactly what I just laid out. They have a complete roster and a young quarterback that they are unsure of, but are leaning towards or meh or I'm out on, which means bring in Aaron Rodgers. That's what Tampa Bay was doing a year ago. Bring in Tom Brady. The Browns have an up-and-coming young quarterback, and it just doesn't seem like the timelines, the timetables would match for a marriage between Cleveland and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. You look at it, and a lot of the people nationally think, boy, the Browns should get that. Could you see Aaron Rodgers? Could you see Aaron Rodgers with this offense? Not all of the national pundits feel that way. Take a listen to this.
You think Aaron Rodgers should go to Cleveland?
Absolutely not, and I don't think the Cleveland Browns could do it. Now, first of all, Max goes, who should do it? Max, like every team in the NFL, should try to be getting the MVP of last year, right? So, like, to throw out any team, you can make a justification for it. Here's my thing with Max, and even Stephen A., and I know he's not there right now, but here's my thing with Max when it comes to Baker Mayfield. The Cleveland Browns forever have been searching for a quarterback, have been searching for their guy, and they finally roll the dice and take Baker Mayfield at number 1. And all that Baker Mayfield has done in his 3 years as starter is, 1, break Peyton Manning and Russell Wilson's rookie touchdown record. So his rookie year, he breaks their record. His second year, it's a disaster. And it's a disaster because of the pieces around him and the head coach. And then last year he throws for 26 touchdowns and 8 picks, and he finally breaks the streak of the Browns not being in the playoffs, and he takes them to a playoff win. And now it's like, well, the Browns should just think about moving on and going to get Aaron Rodgers. Like, what else does Baker Mayfield need to do in the midst of 3 head coaches in his first 3 years, 4 offensive coordinators, and 2 general managers? Yes, right now, today, is Aaron Rodgers an upgrade over Baker Mayfield? Yes, but you could say that for 28 teams in the NFL. But what you risk doing that if you're the Cleveland Browns is like, what do you do 3 years from now? Because you don't know if Baker Mayfield's going to go be great. I got 2 years of evidence in a 3-year span that he's pretty stinking good. So why are we mortgaging our future to just sit here and go, well, we don't know. Let's just go get Aaron Rodgers.
These are all legitimate
questions. You can say that
questions.
about any team, Max.
And that was Max Kellerman who said that Cleveland would be the perfect landing spot for him that he was responding to. So I think Browns fans are saying, yes, thank you, Dan.
Yeah, a lot of truth there from Dan Orlovsky. And it really goes back to what I said. The timetables just don't match up. One thing you can add to that when it comes to Baker Mayfield's match in Green Bay is I get that the Browns have the best – I don't even know how to put this. The best, still slightly unknown commodity at quarterback. Like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson have entered realms where they're not tradable, right? Baker is flirting with that, but he's still one electric year away from it. Like if he just has a 2021 season that mirrors the prolificness of his rookie campaign, then he enters that Lamar and Josh Allen field, right? But the reason it doesn't make sense for Green Bay is because then what happens with Jordan Love? Like, why'd you even pick him in the first place? If you're just going to replace him with Baker Mayfield, who is head and shoulders better than Jordan Love right now. I mean, no duh. So I just don't think any of this makes a whole lot of sense. I get the NBA side of all this, but it is Denver or nothing. There's always a dark horse, maybe Carolina. I keep an eye on the Carolina Panthers if they want to do a quick pivot from Sam Darnold. But this feels like a Peyton Manning 2.0 situation. He ends up in Denver with a ready-made roster, and the Browns stay set with Baker Mayfield as they should.
Yeah, and it would be a shock if they did do that. So let me throw this out to you. What do you think could be a potential downfall of the Browns as you look at this season? And there's always a couple, but what do you think could be a potential downfall?
I think there's only one thing that gets in the way of this Browns season not really looking a lot like it did a year ago and having improvements both offensively and in the secondary on defense. It's the schedule, and specifically the way the games line up for the Browns. This is a team that needs to avoid some of those prolific passers early. That Chiefs game, I have a feeling Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry, Joe Woods hope it's in mid-October, maybe late October, Halloweenish, rather than September. I think wherever Aaron Rodgers ends up, if he stays in Green Bay, that game's in Lambeau. Denver also, that needs to be in a good spot for the Browns. The Patriots, I only say that because of a Bill Belichick thing, and you'd like, again, for not that Cam Newton or Mac Jones are going to probably tear any secondary up, but my point is those upper-level coaches, you want to see them later as your secondary and your potential 9 new defensive players gel and learn how to play together. So the schedule is the only thing that could mess this up. If they get 4 tough ones in a row and start 1-3 or something, momentum is real in this league. Bill O'Brien lost his job because the Texans, well, Bill O'Brien lost his job for a ton of reasons, but Bill O'Brien's lost his job at an accelerated rate because the Texans opened with Kansas City, Baltimore, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and went 0-4, and he was out the door. The schedule matters a lot. We'll know on May 12th.
All right, Ellis Williams, Browns beat reporter for cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer, as always. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Ellis.
A blast as always. Talk soon.
All right, have a good one. Ellis Williams, make sure you read him in Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. Does a great job of breaking down the X's and O's. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Stephen Means, Buckeyes beat reporter, will join us. We'll talk a little bit about some of the Buckeyes and how they fit with where they went in the NFL draft. Sports for CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports for CLE continues. Thanks for hanging with us. I'm Dave Bacon. We are going to be joined by Stephen Means, Buckeyes beat reporter for cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer. And Stephen, I know we've talked about him. Tell me more about Tommy Togiai. Now Browns fans want to know as much about this guy as possible. What are the Browns getting in Togiai?
Strong man. Strong man. I don't know if you saw him do the bench press. I think he got to about 40. I think he could have got more, but I think he just got tired. But strong, one of the strongest men on Ohio State's football team over the last 2 or 3 years here is a nose tackle who knows he has some development to do still, right? But for him, it was just, why wait? You have an opportunity to go make some money and develop that. You can either develop while making $1 million, or you can develop and not make $1 million. I'd probably vote to develop while making $1 million as well. So more of a long-term guy. I think the Browns I've got maybe a 3-man rotation there at the defensive tackle thing, but he's more of a future down the line thing, or maybe in year 2 is where you start to see him make a real impact. I think if he'd have came back to Ohio State, he probably could have gone a little higher. So you got him for really good value, but definitely a developmental guy for year 1, but strong man.
Is he the type of guy that gets in the backfield as well? What on the field, what are some of the things that he is able to do that maybe set him apart?
Yeah, I think he showed off some of his ceiling in that Penn State game when he had 3 sacks and was Defensive Player of the Week. I don't know how often you see nose tackles, guys who are habitually taking on double teams, getting 3 sacks in a game. But he and Haskell Garrett were the best defensive linemen as interior guys when you're used to seeing guys on the edge like Chase Young, Nick Bosa, on down the line there, be the more dominant guys. That was the strength of their defensive line this year. Disruption is great in the run game. I mean, you saw him also get pressure in that Clemson game where he forced a fumble on Trevor Lawrence, but great at stopping the run and can get pressure from the interior, which is, I think, a very valuable thing, whether you're talking about college football or NFL football, especially with the way teams want to throw the ball now. Being able to get that pressure up the middle and collapse the pocket, that's where he's at his strong suit. And I think that Clemson game and then that win over Penn State are 2 places where you saw it at its best.
Let's shift focus to Justin Fields. Ends up going to the Bears. You and I have talked about him a lot. I think he's going to be a really good NFL quarterback. Is this a good fit for him?
Well, I mean, Matt Nagy's hoping it's a good fit or he's not going to have a job. I think so, yeah. It's a situation where it's a little similar to what it was in 2019 with Justin Fields, where let's just be honest here, the strength of that 2019 team was the fact that they had a really dominant defense. And that's one thing this Bears team does have is a playoff roster. It just didn't have a really great quarterback because of Mitch Trubisky. But it's a really dominant defense led by Khalil Mack. There are some offensive weapons like Allen Robinson. But he's in a situation where it might be similar to what Baker Mayfield was in 2018 with the Browns, where you might not start him, but by week 2 or 3, he's your starting quarterback, and that's going to be your future right there. They got to get him on the field as quickly as possible because, as I mentioned, I mean, Matt Nagy's job is on the line, but also this is a guy where you start that development process right now. Maybe you don't start him at the beginning of the season. Andy Dalton takes on that role, but by the time you get to week 2 or 3, that's when Justin is ready to play. And I wouldn't be surprised, especially if Aaron Rodgers is on his way out the door, if the Bears are winning that division and make the playoffs.
When you look at some of the other Buckeyes, who do you think ended up with a good fit? You know, who do you think went somewhere where they can make an impact and are pretty happy about where they landed from Ohio State's draft class?
Josh Myers at 62 to the Packers. I just think that's a perfect fit as far as what his role is going to be. He's been the starting center for Ohio State the last 2 years, and now he's going to go replace the Packers starting center, who is also from Ohio State, Corey Linsley. Obviously, they lost him to free agency, so they needed a center. And Josh Myers, I thought, was the guy that, yes, he's a center, but you didn't have to play him there. If you wanted to play him at guard, he had the ability and the versatility to do that. But now it's just going to do the same thing. Now, whether he's going to be snapping the ball to Aaron Rodgers or Jordan Love, obviously we still have to find out. But at least their center situation is now figured out. They just went and got another Ohio State guy after losing Corey Linsley. So I think that's, of anybody, he fell into the perfect situation from a standpoint of he's got a clear route to the field in a way that I'm not sure everybody else has right now.
Is there anybody that you think that could really that the team that got him got a really good player and might be even a little bit surprised at how good he plays in the NFL?
Baron Browning. I have been team Baron Browning is going to be a better NFL player than a college player all along, sort of like Michael Thomas. I'm not saying that in 4 years he's going to be the highest paid linebacker in the league like Michael Thomas was, but I just think that's a former 5-star guy. He was a number 12 player in his recruiting class and the top outside linebacker, and he never in the same recruiting class where Jeff Okudah and Chase Young were both 5-stars. He never really got to that status at Ohio State, and there was a lot of things that went into that. But as we saw at his pro day, all that athleticism is still there. And regardless of how his first couple of years went, when Al Washington and Greg Madison got there, they really developed him as a complete linebacker. He can play in the box as a Mike. He can play he's already got the natural athletic ability to play will and be a pass rusher. And last year he played Sam, so he can cover tight ends if necessary. I think that's a perfect role for him, being in a 3-4 defense where they can showcase some of the athleticism, but also he's got the versatility to move around a little bit. And I think in about 3 or 4 years, Ohio State fans are going to be looking at Baron Browning and go, man, where was that guy at in Columbus for 4 years? It just never really showed up then.
All right, let's take a look before I let you go. Urban Meyer, what did you make of what the Jaguars got, and were you surprised a little, or?
No, I don't think I was surprised. I think what you saw is Urban kind of identify a lot of guys that he also had relationships with in recruiting, even if they didn't necessarily end up at Ohio State, but also just guys he knows. Let's be honest. He was in the building in 2019 when Clemson beat Ohio State. He watched Trevor Lawrence run for 67 yards. Now, that's the given. We know he was going to take them. But he also watched Travis Etienne take a screen pass almost 40 yards to seal that win. So those are two guys. I mean, he's seen that in person already, so he knows how that translates. I am interested in how that's going to work out now because they do have 3 running backs on the team. Carlos Hyde, a former player at Ohio State under Urban Meyer, is also there. He says he wants to use Travis Etienne as a 3rd down back. We'll see. I'm interested in how the pieces work. But as far as who they identified, they were all people that Urban Meyer was comfortable with. And for a first-year head coach where you know what the first pick was going to be, and this is the first time he's ever coached at this level, it was a pretty solid draft. I am just now interested in how these pieces are going to work in an NFL offense.
You know,
and defense.
College coaches usually struggle a little bit. Do you see Urban Meyer potentially struggling in his first go-around in the NFL?
No, I think this can go one of 2 ways. No, if he is just the CEO out there, which I think he is very good at when he allocates and when he divvies up responsibilities and lets people do their job. That's when Ohio State was at its best, when they won the national championship. When even in the years where they had the upset losses to guys like Iowa and the Purdue, he allowed people to do their job, and he was just a CEO, overseer of stuff, and just was, his favorite place was the special teams room. Because this is a level he doesn't know, he needs to do that even more. So if he does that, I think they'll have success. It'll just need to be patient because the Jaguars are an awful organization. Let's be honest here. The only good thing about them right now is Trevor Lawrence, so we'll see. But if he goes the same route as Nick Saban kind of did it, where it was he tried to maybe take some of the college philosophies and take them to the NFL level, then no, it's not going to work out. Because the one thing that Nick Saban had to learn is, unlike in college where you get picks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, no, you get picks 1, and then you get picked 33, and then you don't pick again for another 32 picks. And so if he adjusts the way he does things and not approach this like it's recruiting, then he'll be fine.
Stephen Means, Buckeyes beat reporter for the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. As always, appreciate the time and the insight. Make sure you read Stephen in the pages of the Plain Dealer as well as here on cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Indians baseball. We'll take a look at one of the strangest, most blown calls in baseball history. It happened last night with the Indians and Royals. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Welcome back to Sports4CLE. Indians in Kansas City, game 3 of a 4-game series. The Indians trying to make it 3 in a row over the Royals and 4 in a row. They won their last game in Chicago before heading to Kansas City. Well, baseball is a game where every night you have the potential to see something that you have never seen. And I guarantee you, if you were watching the Indians game last night, you have never seen anything like what occurred there. Fly ball lost in the outfield by the bright lights of an LED scoreboard, dropped in. It was ruled a catch by the umpire, and then they disallowed it. They sent the runners to first and third. They moved them up and had everybody scratching their head, and manager Terry Francona not happy at all.
It is hard to see out there because it's lit with different colors. An Angel told me that he had called it out as a catch, so they had to redo it and put the runners where they thought they would potentially be. It's just frustrating that I kind of just told him how I felt, but I knew it wasn't going to change anything.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't see if the ball was caught either, and there was no signal. No out or safe call to kind of give the guys any guidance, and the whole thing looked confusing as it was to me as well. So what they realized was that they did not make a call, and then it came down to placement of runners, where if they had made the call, we'd have been able to advance Benny to third, and they leave Salvi. Fortunately, we got the run in also.
Kind of told Angel, why does it always happen when you're here? It's aggravating, but I don't think there was anything we could do. believe me, I was thinking about it. I didn't know.
So Angel is Angel Hernandez, and that was one of the worst blown calls I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of baseball. Well, we kind of have been giving Jake Bauers a little bit of grief here. You know, it hasn't hit, but he came up with a huge pinch hit home run, a 2-run homer in the 8th inning that really sealed it for the Indians. Went from a 2-run lead to a 4-run lead. The Indians eventually won 7-3. Jake Bauers, home run, first of the year, and says he's been having good at-bats. Let's listen to how he went through that at-bat that led to the 2-run pinch hit homer.
He's got a good heater. He likes his fastball. So, I mean, the plan against him last night was stay on the fastball. Didn't get him last night, and tonight took 2 good swings at heaters, and then got to, I don't know what the count was, 2-2, and noticed him shaking. I'm like, dang, I mean, this guy wants his heater. So stayed on it, stick with the plan, and luckily I got him. Of course, results are what we're after. Results is the only thing anyone's looking for, truly. But no, I mean, I was trusting myself. I've been having good at-bats all year. I've been, what I would say is, close. So really my only thought ever is just go up and have a good at-bat and control what I can control. And that's not where the ball goes. That's not if they catch it. It's not if it falls. But like I said, obviously results are great, and hopefully they keep coming.
All right, Jake Bauers, his first home run of the year, a pinch hit homer in the 8th. So let's hope Jake Bauers getting hot and gets it rolling. Nobody goes up to the plate trying to make out. So Jake Bauers alluded to, there are metrics with exit velocity that say he's hitting the ball pretty well just at people. Let's hope the ball starts finding the outfield grass for Jake Bauers and the Indians. Mentioned Game 3 of a 4-game series. It is Shane Bieber pitching tonight, and that's usually really good things for the Indians. Now, Bieber's record 3-2 on the year. He has a 2.76 ERA. He's 68 strikeouts in 42 1/3 innings. 68 strikeouts in 42 1/3 innings. Opponents hitting just $178 against him. He has only allowed 28 hits in those 42 1/3 innings. Bieber trying to keep his outstanding season going tonight, make it 3 in a row for the Indians as they continue to climb up in that AL Central. The pitching has kept them in it. If the hitting can get going, Indians are right there in the American League Central. Again, Shane Bieber going tonight. 8 o'clock start against the Kansas City Royals. They'll wrap it up tomorrow with an afternoon game. That'll do it for us here on Sports for CLE. Scheduled guests tomorrow, Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter, and Mandy Bell, Indians beat reporter from Indians.com. That is tomorrow at 4 o'clock, Sports for CLE. We will see you then. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow.